everyone is doing all right today. I am Jamarl Thomas. I am your host. This is Progressive Soapbox. I've done this video once before, so if people are like, wait a minute, am I having deja vu? You're not having deja vu. It's just that I absolutely entirely hated the last video. We went far on too long and it didn't quite explain what I was trying to get across. So let's do this one more time and let's make this a little bit more concise. Rachel Maddow and the Democratic Party has come up with a new conspiracy theory. After 3 years of pushing the Russia stuff, it went up in a blaze of glory when Mueller, the person who they turned into a saint, called for no collusion, said that there was no collusion. After 3 years of investigation, after using extraordinarily aggressive prosecutors, squeezing this person, indicting this other person, using police forces to raid compounds of lawyers, they come back and say there was no collusion between the President of the United States and the Russian government. On the issue of obstruction, he punted. So, of course, a mainstream media that's pushed the collusion narrative for 3 years and went up in smoke all at once, of course, they're not going to own up to the fact that they got it wrong, that they pushed conspiracy theory for years on end. They're not going to own that, especially the political party that full well pushed this and was clinging to this like grim death, meaning the Democratic Party, in order to explain the fact that they lost to Clinton. That they lost to reality shows, Donald Trump. So instead, they jumped to the next conspiracy theory. Now, in this case, it had to do with Barr, the person that Trump put in office. This, in no means, mattered to them when it was Obama in office, who chose Loretta Lynch as his attorney general, and she was overseeing a case involving the Secretary of State that same president put in office. No issue with that, but on this one, there's something going on at the Justice Department. Great. So in this case, now the new conspiracy theory has to do with Barr. They're trying to make the point that William Barr lied to Congress. Now, this is somewhat of a big deal if they lied to Congress, even though other attorney generals have done so. Rachel Maddow have come out with this particular story. The only problem with this is what Rachel Maddow is presenting as a lie. She's saying that Barr is answering a question that Barr wasn't asked. She's cutting the video too soon. Meaning if she gave it a little bit more room in the video, you would find that what Rachel Maddow is saying is taking place is not in fact taking place. She is being disingenuous to her audience. Listen to her segment, and I'm going to show you a longer version of the video, and you're going to be able to see what I mean. There's a certain degree of lunacy to this in the first place. All of this was precipitated when it was released that Mueller disagreed with, I guess you could say, the context that was given in his 4-page summary when he released the entirety of the report. If you remember, Barr released the entirety of the report. The entirety of the report is already out. You can read it with your own eyes. They're making an argument that Mueller didn't necessarily fully and entirely agree with Barr's summary. Barr gave a 4-page summary of like a 400-page document. Mueller apparently had made up his own summaries, but Barr just released the entirety of the report. Who cares about the summary when you can read the report? You can read the entirety of the report. Why are we talking about this? They're talking about something that took place all the way back in March. We're in May. This shows a certain degree of desperation that these guys are spinning and shaking in order to kind of absolve themselves of failure. Media, in one sense, of getting it wrong, and the Democratic Party of just losing to reality shows. We are literally talking about something that took place in the past. Mueller wanted his summaries released. Barr released the entirety of the Mueller report. They're arguing about a summary, the definition of which being a snapshot of the entirety of a piece, when the entirety of the piece has already been released. That's what we're talking about. Rachel Maddow is trying to say that Barr lied. She's insinuating that the question that Barr is answering here has to do with whether or not there was an agreement or disagreement between him and Mueller over his summary. That's not what Barr is being asked. Let's look at the segment, and I'm going to show you what Barr, in actuality, was asked.
On April 10th, 20 days ago, Attorney General William Barr testified before the Senate, and he was asked if Special Counsel Robert Mueller agreed with his conclusion summarizing the results of Robert Mueller's investigation.
If he agreed with his conclusion summarizing the results of the investigation. Let's keep going.
Here is what William Barr said when he was asked that question before the Senate under oath.
It was the conclusion of a number of people, including me, and I obviously am the Attorney General. It was also the conclusion of the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein.
I understand. No, I've read your letters,
others, and I will discuss that decision after the report
Did Bob Mueller support your conclusion?
I don't know whether Bob Mueller supported my conclusion.
I don't know whether Bob Mueller supported my conclusion. Let's keep going.
I don't know whether Bob Mueller supported my conclusion. That is what Attorney General Bill Barr testified to on April 10th. We now know that just 2 weeks earlier, on March 27th, Robert Mueller had sent a letter to Bill Barr expressing serious frustration and concern with the way Barr was mischaracterizing his report.
Mueller complained that the letter didn't capture the full context, etc., etc., etc. The problem with this is he's already released the entirety of the report. The problem with what's taking place in this video is that that's not what Barr was answering. You can even tell in the way that Barr was answering a question, Barr wasn't answering a question on the summary that Barr submitted. Just so we're clear, Barr was being asked a question on whether he agreed with the entirety of the obstruction in general, whether Mueller agreed with his final result of clearing Trump of obstruction charges. Let's take a listen to the larger question. 3 minutes.
You sent a letter to the United States Congress that included something which was a principal conclusion, which was not a conclusion reached by the Mueller report. You indicated that they did not exonerate the president. You did. And so I'm asking you whether you agree with Mueller that there were difficult issues of law and fact in making that assessment.
That's not a question I really can answer until I think.
Well, you did it, but you looked at the report, right? And you looked at the evidence of the report, and you made a decision. And you said that the president's not guilty of criminal obstruction of justice. I'm asking you, in your review of the report, did you agree with Mueller that there were difficult issues of law and fact?
I'm going to give my reaction and comments, about the report after the report.
Well, it would have been, but you put your view of the report out there on this issue of obstruction of justice, right? Nobody asked you to do that.
I didn't put my view of the report.
Again, if you notice, this back and forth is on obstruction of justice. This back and forth is not about the 4-page document. Rachel Maddow is making it seem like Barr is being asked the question on the document, if that makes sense. Like, it's true that Mueller may have disagreed with the way Barr was releasing it, but that was Barr's discretion on whether or not to release Mueller's summary. It's Barr's discretion. He's the Attorney General. Instead of releasing the summary, he just chose to release the entirety of the report. Now, if you say, did Mueller disagree with you and you're releasing the report, that's one question. Meaning, did Mueller want you to release a summary as opposed to the way you went about it? Then if he would have said no, fair enough. But that's not what he is being asked. What she's showing is a clip that she's cut very, very too soon, and making it seem like he's being asked a question about whether or not Mueller agreed with the way the report is being released. He, in this moment, is being asked a question on obstruction. Rachel Maddow is being disingenuous to her audience. That's the point I'm trying to get across. This back and forth is, did Mueller agree with your final verdict and allowing Trump to be cleared on charges of obstruction? He says, I don't know. Rachel Maddow runs the clip of him saying, I don't know, and acts as if that I don't know is in relation to the way the summary was released. I hope that makes sense. She's being disingenuous. She's pretending as if the question that he's answering that I don't know to is about the disagreement between him and Mueller over the summary or the entirety of the report being released. That's not what they're having a fight about. The fight that they're having is over obstruction. Take a look at, in fact, let me let this play for a little
Well, you
bit.
put your assessment on, you made a conclusion on the question of obstruction of justice that was not contained in the Mueller report. And I'm simply asking you, when you looked at the evidence, did you agree with Mueller and his team that there were difficult issues of law and fact?
As I say, I am going to explain my decision, and to the extent that requires any assessment of the Mueller report, I'm going to do that when the Mueller report is out. I'm not
Did
gonna
your
do it.
decision require you to look into the intent of the President of the United States with respect to obstruction of justice?
I'm not going to discuss my decision. I will lay it out after the report is out.
Mr. Attorney General, the thing is, you put this out there. I mean, the president went out and tweeted the next day that he was exonerated. That wasn't based on anything in the Mueller report with respect to obstruction of justice. That was based on your assessment. That was on March 24th. And now you won't elaborate at all as to how you reached that conclusion. Because I'm not asking you what's in the Mueller report. I'm asking about your conclusion. Let me ask you this.
Well,
You
it was the
said in your
conclusion. It was the conclusion of a number of people, including me, and I obviously am the Attorney General. It was also the conclusion of the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein.
I understand. No, I've
as
read
well
your
as
letters,
others,
Mr.
and I will discuss that decision after the report
Did
is
Bob
out.
Mueller support your conclusion?
I don't know whether Bob Mueller supported.
This is where Richard Maddow is cutting the video. I don't know if Bob Mueller supported my conclusion on obstruction. That's what he's saying. Let's go back to her for the moment, just so we're making it clear. Listen to what she's characterizing this as. Not a question about obstruction, but a question of whether or not Mueller agreed with the way you were going about releasing the documents. She's changing the context of this conversation.
Here's something worth pondering. On April 10th, 20 days ago, Attorney General William Barr testified before the Senate, and he was asked if Special Counsel Robert Mueller agreed with his conclusion summarizing the results of Robert Mueller's investigation.
As you could see, that's not what he was asked. That's not what he was asked. All right, I'm going to end this here because Galloway is coming up immediately after this. And I will see you guys immediately after that in order to upload. Let's see. There was a... Oh, there wasn't. I thought there was. Okay. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. And I'll see you guys in a few this evening. Thanks all.